Hey guys, what is up? I am here with my good friend John for another podcast. We haven't done a podcast in quite some time, so I do apologize for that. Wasn't John's fault. He is always willing to do a podcast. It's just me. I work for the Tulsa Drillers, which is a AA baseball team. So I do get pretty busy with the sheer fact that every other week they play 6 games out of 7 days. So Tuesday through Sunday, it's games. And I'm pretty much at the stadium 8 to 10 hours, if not more, a day. So I practically live at the stadium at this point. But with that being said, we're going to talk about some Yankee baseball. I haven't done it in a while. You haven't done it in a while. We haven't done it with each other in a while. So we're definitely back. But first, before we dive into this podcast, it is going to get a little bit depressing / sad, whatever words you want to come up with. But I just wanted to mention my deepest concern for Brett Gardner's family. I know just recently that his son Miller passed away. And I'm not really sure what the cause of death is, but that's not really important right now. What is important is giving our kindest thoughts and just being very, very, very kind and not invasive on Brett Gardner's family and their privacy, but also give them the respect that they deserve and also just be there for them whenever they need it. And it's really sad. It's really hard for me to put to words how difficult that would be to lose a son like that or lose anybody that you really care about in your family the way that Brett Gardner and his family has lost their son. And I'm not very good at words at explaining things like this. Never really have been, but I just kind of wanted to talk about that and, be on that side of the fence where I'm really, really apologetic for Brett Gardner and his family. I'm very sorry, and I hope that they're doing well, and I hope that they're doing everything that they can. I really also hope the Yankee organization, and I sure think they're probably doing this as well, is giving all their support and every resource available to Brett Gardner's family. So wanted to get that off my chest a little bit. Was there anything that you wanted to say about that matter, Jad, before I continue on with our podcast? If there was any words that you wanted to mention.
I didn't expect it, but yeah, it was really sad and it was really sudden because, usually you hear about some things like people are not doing well. Because despite the fact he's not with the team anymore, he's still part of the family. Like, he's still here. He's in a lot of people's thoughts and minds all the time, Not a day goes by that I hear some caller on the radio calling saying, maybe we should retire Brett Gardner's number this year. Like, every single person has an opinion. Like, because everybody grew up watching Brett Gardner, especially from, like, my generation. Like, we all watched him grow up. He's forever etched in our minds about, he was one of the people who was in that World Series run in 2009, and he's been like a kind of like over the last couple of years, I feel like he's kind of been like left to the wayside, kind of like we don't want to play with our toy anymore. But he's a good dude, and he's, he deserves the support, and it's nice to see that the Yankees are there to release a statement on their behalf, and hopefully they're giving him all the resources that they could possibly give him to try to help him and his family through this tough time, because, I can't imagine losing somebody like that. That's unimaginable to me. And, like, I've lost family members. We've all lost family members, but it's just, like, it's never easy, especially when it's so sudden like that. So, no, I don't really have much to add, Whatever happened, I hope they can find peace, and I hope that they can find a way to move past it and remember him and honor his legacy.
I agree. Took the words right out of my mouth, because I am not always the best at saying my feelings, especially on a podcast like this, because I never do. But anyways, kind of moving on from that, let's talk about some Yankee baseball now. Let's talk about some stuff that actually is good news. Start spreading the news.
When was the last time I did a podcast? I remember the last time I did a podcast, we were so downtrodden at the time because we're just like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to talk about Yankee baseball anymore. This is not fun anymore. Like, we're very mad. We're just like, this is awful. And then they went on a World Series run, and I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. We're going to the World Series. So it was wild.
It's not that I didn't want to do a podcast, but like I stated earlier, it's just like I've just been so busy. So.
We were both like, at some point, we're just like, man, I don't want to talk about Yankee baseball at this point anymore, because I think we both had hit that point at some point in the year last year, because we were both like so done with it. We're like, no, I don't want to do this. Like,
well, baseball.
I just want to cry on my own, and we'll watch this team not able to run a scoring position again. Please sign me up.
Baseball is peaks and valleys. Everybody goes through it, unless you're a
There was a
team
lot of
like, I don't know, the Reds or Pirates or something, where they have way more way more valleys than they have peaks. But
no. I mean that's fair. There was a lot of peaks and valleys, and like you remember some of the peaks. Like the Derek Jeter walk off, like to end his career and stuff like that. Like that's why you watch baseball, right? For those kinds of those peaks, and they're really rare and they stick with you forever. But it definitely felt like last year the highs were really high sometimes, but it also felt like the lows were really low sometimes too. Like it was, there was a really bad stretch there for a time where I was just like, this is not fun anymore. I just don't know what to do.
yeah, with that being said, I actually want you to go ahead and take it away, because you had a question that we were talking about before the podcast. So I kind of want you to talk about a little bit in terms of like sleeper picks and such like that.
Yeah. I wanted to know. We did it last year before we even began the season. It was before spring training. We even finished, I think, because when we did it, we didn't do it a game in. But I wanted to know what your idea of a person that the person who's listening to the podcast is thinking to themselves, like, who is somebody that is not actively like in people's minds or is not really contributing at this point that you think will have a significant contribution to this team by the end of the season, by either playing a role where they're just kind of like moving up and down and doing spot starts? Or do you think they'll become like a real active player on the roster? Like, what do you think?
Well, obviously I talked to you a little bit about it before we started the podcast. I know he's definitely not under the radar, but I have to mention, I think Austin Wells is going to have a humongous breakout year. Obviously, watching him hit a leadoff homer and being the first catcher in Yankees history as a leadoff hitter to hit a home run was absolutely amazing. I think that he has all the tools to become a great overall player. We already know what he can do from the defensive side of things. He can throw runners out. He has a pretty good framing element about him. He can play good defense and block the balls, make sure they don't get in the backstop. And he also has a lot of tools to be a great hitter. Now, when we were watching spring training, at least when I was watching spring training, because I tried to watch every game that I could, when he was hitting home runs off of lefties and hitting singles off lefties and getting base hits and multi-base hits or extra base hits and home runs and such like that, that's a really great feeling. When Austin Wells is hitting lefties well, you're in trouble.
Yeah, he locked in.
Because you already expect him to hit well consistently against righties. He's always struggled more with the lefty side of things, but if he can get past that hump, there's really nothing stopping Austin Wells from going above and beyond. Now, am I saying that he's going to be like Aaron Judge level, Ohtani level of hitting? No, I don't think. I mean, that's a really high bar to meet anyways. I don't think a lot of players are going to meet those expectations regardless. But in terms of the catching position and value for each player, especially the catching position, there's no reason for me to believe that he's not going to be like a top 3 catcher this year. And he has that potential. And I think he can have that potential going forward, not just this year, but for multiple years. He can be one of those players. I think he could very well be like a Gary Sanchez, but at this time, he'll actually have good defensive metrics, unlike Gary, that had a lot of problems with pass balls and blocking balls and such like that. And also, I think he could also just have better offensive numbers overall than Gary. Not to say Gary didn't have good seasons, because he obviously did. You and I both love Gary. I still love Gary. But I think Wells has more potential. I think he has a higher ceiling, and especially since he actually can play good defense, I think that helps his metrics and his value a lot more. But kind of going back to your question, since Wells isn't exactly a player that's kind of under the radar.
I think he won Rookie of the Year, so I don't think he's under the radar anymore. I think he's most certainly on the radar at this point.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this, and you can give me a yes or no if this counts, because I mean he is just 2 years away from an MVP, but he really wasn't that great last year. Is it acceptable to say Paul Goldschmidt because of how bad his year was last year? And he did get off to a better second half start. He was better in the second half than the first half, but compared especially to the MVP year, the year before, and just years past, that was not the Paul Goldschmidt that everybody knew and loved. That was a completely different version of Paul Goldschmidt. And I think Paul Goldschmidt is going to bounce back this year just from the sheer fact that he's not playing in a canyon anymore in Busch Stadium. He's not
playing in Matt Carpenter land anymore.
He's not going to get robbed home runs all the time anymore. He's going to be more benefited by the dimensions of Yankee Stadium. And he's already a good defender. which is nice to have. It would be nice to actually have like a first baseman who can make some good picks. Now, I know Rizzo could too,
Yeah.
but I think that having a hitter who can actually hit more consistently good, because I think overall Paul Goldschmidt is a way bigger upgrade than keeping Anthony Rizzo, in my opinion. I might kind of be biased about that because you know how big of a Paul Goldschmidt fan I am. I've been a fan of his way back when he was with the Diamondbacks.
Of course.
But I think Paul Goldschmidt would be my pick. I know he's not exactly under the radar kind of guy, but I don't really think anyone is expecting somebody of his age. I think he's 36 years old, going on almost 37. I don't really think anybody's expecting him to turn the key. But what I would say is, I know it was kind of like a one-hit wonder thing. You don't really expect this to happen consistently, but just look at what Matt Carpenter did. Am I expecting Goldschmidt to do the same thing as Matt Carpenter? No, because that was absolutely ridiculous. Like, that should have never happened.
We don't know what happened.
But Matt Carpenter was also 37. He was a year older than Paul Goldschmidt is right now, and I don't see why Paul Goldschmidt can't turn the tables around, considering he plays in a much smaller ballpark, and he's going to be benefited from those dimensions more. I could obviously be very wrong, but I'm being very optimistic that I think that he's going to have a bounce back year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Paul Goldschmidt has always been a player that's always been like an on-base percentage guy. He's always had good on-base percentages. I went to go look at the stats just to make sure. I mean, last year he had like a horrific season. He just really had a horrible season. For like the first half of the year, he was dreadful. But he's always had a good on-base percentage. Like, he's always had like his lowest on-base percentage coming into last year was in 2019 when he hit on OBP of 346. If you have an OBP of 346 compared to like what we had last season, like we had the lowest OPS out of all first basemen in the majors. So I mean, you're getting a professional first baseman. It's a lefty in a lefty ballpark, a guy who gets on base, and he's professional, and he's a good defender. I think that you can't go wrong with that. I think he's due for bounce back season, and I hope that, you know, he does something interesting, or like not does something interesting. I hope that he gives the fans what they want before like we get 2 weeks in, and then all of a sudden the fans are like, oh, we gotta bench this guy. You know, like I want to see him get off to a good start. I don't want him to see him fall into like the trap that Giancarlo fell into when he got here. Like, Giancarlo had that amazing first couple of games, and then all of a sudden, it was just like, oh, his first game at the stadium, 5 strikeouts. You know, it's like, just, I don't want to see that happen to Paul Goldschmidt. I want to see him get off on a good foot, but I think he's definitely due for a bounce back. So I agree with you. Under the radar, I think people have tapered their expectations to be kind of low on Paul Goldschmidt because, like you said, he's older. You know, he's not the shiny guy that we expected. We're not paying him a lot of money, obviously, but I think that, you know, he's due for a bounce back season, and I'm intrigued to see what he can do. Lefty Yankee Stadium, I'm never going to say no to that.
So would Goldschmidt be your pick too, or did you have somebody else in mind?
I don't know if it's like too obvious of an answer because I've been harping on him for a long time now, but I think Will Warren's going to be like an excellent back of the rotation starter for us this season. I've been waiting for Will Warren for like a long time now, and he's been kind of on everybody's depth charts. So I don't know if he's under the radar because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I feel like he's kind of been like a de facto 5 starter for us ever since we've had issues. We're only going to be losing Schmidt. I think they said Schmidt's going to come back about the middle of the month coming up. So we're really going to be back up to 4 starters coming up soon. And I don't know if Carlos Carrasco is going to get starts or not, but we'll see what happens with him. But I think Will Warren will either be like a long relief guy or we'll kind of have to do spot starts. Either one of the two, I don't know. But I feel like at some point he'll be in this rotation. And I think he'll be making some meaningful starts down the stretch, at least until Luis Gil comes back. And God forbid somebody else gets hurt because, you know, anything could happen. I mean, who knows at this point, you know. So many people on the injury list already. I think we just lost Jake Cousins too, so it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess, but so far so good. We got off to the right start today. We got a win, and everything just about looked perfect except for, you know, one pitcher.
Yeah, Mr. Delvin Williams channeled his inner Clay Holmes, cardiac Holmes.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that's okay though, because you know what? He got through it. That's the only thing that matters. The only thing that matters. Look, there's no pitches in the scorebook. He got through it. He got through an inning. He got the save. That's all that matters, right?
Well, like I told you before the podcast, it is the first game. It is the first real regular season game that actually counts. And yes. I still think that even though these guys are professional athletes and they may or may have not been in the league for, you know, multiple years at a time, I still think that these guys still get the jitters. I still think, especially for the first home game opening day, especially if it's in your home stadium like Yankee Stadium, I still think that these guys get really nervous. So I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm really not thinking too much in general about the whole team as much. Again, it's only one
Yeah,
game, so you really can't go off of really much information off of one game. I think Devin
yeah,
Williams will be fine. Obviously, it wasn't pretty, but they got the
yeah,
job done. What I
yeah.
was really excited about was Rodon. I think Carlos Rodon
Oh yeah,
looked pretty good today.
it was
And
really good.
again, it's like, could Carlos Rodon do better? Absolutely, his potential to. But and it's not even like he did bad. He did good. It was five and a third,
Five
one
strong
earned
innings.
run, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. I mean, the walks aren't great, but you only gave up 1 earned run in almost 6 innings. That's good
Yeah,
enough for me, especially for an opening day start. That is plenty good,
yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion.
No, that was really good. I mean, his stuff looked pretty good. He was getting he was getting a lot of swing and misses on his off speed stuff. Like it was really sharp today. It looked like they were not ready at all. I want to say maybe the shadows, the time of day, kind of helped him out a little bit. So he kind of benefited on that aspect. But he did look really good. He ran out of gas at the end. Unfortunately, he just kind of lost the strike zone, which that happens. I mean, if we're not opening day and he's not at the pitch limit, I like that he was at, I feel like they would have let him try to get out of that situation, but it was just they're like, okay, that's it. You've done 5 innings. Just go hit the showers. We got this. Don't worry. Everyone's rested. So we have a full bullpen. And they were ready. They were quick to deploy the lethal weapon, Tim Hill, out of the bullpen. And yeah, it was great. It was good. It was a good day today.
I was absolutely shocked to see that Jackson Churio went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. That
Five
was
Ks.
absolutely not what I was expecting from him today.
No, me neither. I couldn't believe it. I looked at it. I was like, oh wow, that's a rough start to the season. Whew. Yikes.
Obviously, that's not an indicator of what he's going to do this year, but
Oh
there
yeah,
were
of course.
multiple opportunities that I thought that he could have not broken
Yeah,
the game open because the game was close pretty much the entire game,
yeah,
but he definitely could have made things interesting for the Brewers. He could have given the
yeah, yeah.
Brewers a lead, if not tied the game up at the bare minimum. And
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna strike out 500 times this season. I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, I'll watch it if that happens, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But
I
I will
mean,
say this: I watched everybody today. Mark Lau Jr. really shut me up today because I was like, Mark Lau Jr. came in the game. I'm like, oh god, here we go. It's Mark Lau Jr. It's Mark Meatball Jr. coming in hot, and he threw 12 pitches and got out of the inning. So I mean, look, good for him, man. Hopefully that's the Mark Lau Jr. we get this year, and not like the Mark Lau Jr. of previous years. Please, I'm begging you, we need him.
so in terms of, we've talked a little bit about the pitching. Obviously, Rodon was good.
Good.
Like you said, Leiter was
Yep.
good, 2 strikeouts an inning. Weaver was good, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. Tim Hill
Love him.
got out of that jam for Rodon, so no harm, no foul. Devin
Yep.
Williams had his issues, but it's only opening day, so I think he'll
He
be
can
fine
do it.
ultimately.
Okay.
Although I have heard from Brewers fans that he will do that a lot. He gives
Oh yeah,
people
he'll
heart
do that.
attacks, and then he'll all of a sudden find the strike zone and then just figure it
Well,
out and win the game for them.
well, very similar to Holmes. When you have that much movement on your pitches and you throw like a ball with that much spin, like you're gonna eventually, every now and then, you're gonna lose control of it. It's just gonna happen, and you're just gonna have to live with it. But there, you can still like the thing about like Holmes and with the Williams is they still have great fastballs, and as long as you have that, I think you're fine because then they have to respect the fact you throw 98 miles an hour, and then everything else follows. Just don't put one in the dead center of the plate and that be a changeup, please. That like you can throw in dirt all day long, I don't care, but just do not hang a pitch in the strike zone, please. That's all I care about.
I think that's the one thing that's actually was going for Devin Williams. It's interesting that you
Yeah, the
mentioned that.
fastball looked pretty good today.
Is he was throwing the Brewers the Brewers hitters couldn't catch up to his fastball,
Yeah,
but they were sitting on
cruising off
changeup the whole
pitches.
time. So it was a very interesting approach from it. It ultimately didn't work out in the end, but it almost did. I mean, that game got pretty close in the bottom or the top of the ninth inning.
Yeah,
But outside of that, I think the pitching was awesome. I was very happy with the starters, from Rodon and then the bullpen to clean it up. What about the offense? How did you overall feel about the offense? I mean, they got the job done. It's not like they were
yeah.
beating the brakes off the Brewers or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, before I go to the offense, like Austin Wells, I want to give him credit, is a very smart catcher. Like you could tell as the inning went on, you could tell that Austin Wells figured out that they were like sitting on breaking pitches. And like he eventually went to using the fastball as like as a strikeout pitch that he would use. Like he struck out Yelich on a high fastball because that's where the eye angle goes when you have the changeup. dip down the wave. So I want to give Wells credit. I think that he noticed that they were sitting changeups and was like, okay, this is not working. We got to abandon this and go to fastballs. So I don't know. I think Austin Wells kind of helped him out there, but I can't tell for sure. But the offense, the only thing I'll say is the fact that like Wells had a porch job and Volpe had a porch job and Judge had a double off the base and everything, and Cody Bellinger had a sac fly, and they were playing against a very tough pitcher today. I think Freddie Peralta is pretty solid in my opinion. He throws a lot of pitches. As to quote David Cohn, he throws the kitchen sink at you. And like I said with Rodon, you're playing in the shadows. You're playing in a weird time. It's not normal. Yankee games are either like really early or really late at night. So it's like when you play a game like that, you're gonna have shadows, which makes it very difficult to see the pitches. And also the weather was very cold today, so the ball wasn't traveling that far either. So those porch job hits were definitely, I don't feel like they would have been that shallow in like summertime. But I felt like you said, the offense did just enough to win. There was a lot. I felt like they did struggle a little bit to try to get runs in, but like I said, you got to give the Brewers credit because they do have some good pitchers. It is opening day, so I'm not really panicking yet, but we did just enough to win, and 4 runs is pretty solid in my opinion for a team that last year was basically ride or die on Aaron Judge. So it was nice to see the kind of spread around a little bit.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I know me talking about Paul Goldschmidt, not really off to a great start with take of his, but it again, I feel like it's kind of a broken record. We're kind of repeating ourselves over and over again. But again, it is opening day. It's one game. One game doesn't justify an entire player's season or career or whatnot, in my opinion. So I think
plenty of time.
I think really the only thing that you can take out of it is that the Yankees won, and that's really all that matters. And I think that they did enough to win. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters is wins and limiting the amount of losses that you have. And I think that they did just enough. And
they did enough. It wasn't pretty, but you got to win the ugly games too.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Win to win. And Jazz didn't look that great. Goldschmidt didn't look to get that great of a game, but you know what? There's still plenty of time. Obviously, like you said, I think that there is a legitimate, like very similar to Williams. I think that there's a very strong desire to go out there and show people like this is what you got. Like the first game, like you want to show the fans like this is what you get when with me. And there's a lot of like bravado with that. And unfortunately, baseball doesn't work like that. It's just you can't play the game that way. So we'll give it some time to like even out and kind of get into the duller days, and hopefully everything will start to move back towards the mean instead of trying to justify how the season is going to look on 4 at-bats, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we probably pretty hit everything. I didn't want this podcast to be too terribly long. I don't really think it needed to be too terribly long considering we've only watched one game of the season, and there's only so much you can talk about with one game. With that being said, I don't have anything else that I need to get off my chest. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about real quick that you think needs to be mentioned about this team, maybe the upcoming schedule or whatnot?
No, I don't know how they're going to deploy the 5-man rotation. I really don't. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't know if Carrasco's going to get a start or if they're just going to like skip a person. I really don't know if they're going to try to make it work, but you told me before the podcast began that they haven't really decided who's going to be pitching for the Arizona series, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see because there isn't really any clear indications on what's coming up next. And they don't need to announce anybody yet, so it's not really surprising.
And that series, I think that series will be very interesting too because they've got Burns lined up for the first game, and then they've got. I know Gallen. We were just talking about it, watching. He was struggling a little bit against the Cubs, but I think in general, Gallen is a very good starter. And again, for Gallen, it's just like everybody. It's just game one. Like not everybody's going to be perfect right out of the gate on game one. Like these guys, a lot of these guys will need time, and that's okay. That's kind of the point of this sport. That's why we have 162 games. You can't just justify everything on one game. It will be an interesting series. I think it will be a good series because I think the Diamondbacks are. They're obviously, not like the Dodgers or a crazy team, but I think that they are a very good respected team, and they could easily escape New York winning the series. I mean, because they are a respectable team.
It's fun to watch. It's gonna be 2 good teams going at it.
And I think
I'm excited to.
Corbin Carroll is an absolute nightmare to deal with. So
Yeah,
you're gonna have to make
yeah,
sure
yeah.
that they don't let him get on the bases as much as possible, because once he gets on first, he's
He's running.
guaranteed to steal second.
Same with Gabriel
So,
Moreno.
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting series. I don't really want to go too far outside of that, just because the sheer
Yeah.
fact of, again, I mean, they haven't even finished playing the Brewers, and they still have no idea who's going to pitch for the next series. So
No,
there's
no
there's a
idea
lot
yet.
of there's a lot of questions that need to be answered that have not been answered yet. So
No. The last thing is I'm excited to see Nestor come back and pitch again, because there was like he got a good ovation today before the game when they announced him as the player for the Brewers. Yankee fans love him. I know, not a lot of people are happy with the way it ended with the World Series game and everything, but I love him. I love his story. He's a fun guy to watch. He's a New York guy. He's fun to root for. So well, he's a New York guy now. I mean, he's from Florida, but he lives in the city. Like he rides the subway to the game. Like I love that. Like it was fun to see the photos of him on the subway. So I don't know. I miss the guy. He's helped us in a lot of situations get to where we are now, and I know that it didn't end well, but I'm happy to see him come back, and hopefully we can win against him. Please, just look, he's an enemy for one day, but I love him. I love that he's back.
I think, to be fair to him, because you know how I feel about some of the posts that he's made on social media, regardless of that,
Yeah.
I still think, to be fair to him, I think you can't put the blame too much on him, because I think in general the Yankees just played terribly during that World Series, and I know most Yankee fans don't want to talk about it. They just want to get over it and move on. I'm kind of at that point too, but since we're on the topic of Nestor, there was a lot of reasons why they didn't win that World Series, and I just overall think the Dodgers were clearly a better team, and that's really all it came down to at the end of the day. The Yankees just didn't want it more, and they just didn't play as smart as baseball as the Dodgers. And
we made more mistakes than they did. That's the problem. We made the mistakes, and we shot ourselves in the foot, and the Dodgers took advantage of that. And it happens.
Yeah,
that's baseball,
so,
Susan.
But, you can't win them all.
Look, it may hurt now, but in a couple of years we'll come back to it and we'll be like, we can talk about it, because we still talk about 2004 and we still talk about 2001. Like we still talk about those years. It hurts, but we still talk about them. Like we remember. I still remember that when the Giants lost to the Ravens. Like we still talk about that. Like it hurts less now because we're removed from it, but it'll be okay. One day we'll talk about it. I promise. It's not going to be like a black mark forever.
Well, I mean, if the Yankees win the World Series anytime soon, then I'll definitely.
Then
it won't be that big of a deal to me anymore.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, no big deal. Sign me up.
But I think that's all I got to say. It's pretty much
all I got to say.
All good for you too.
It's everything I can think of.
All right. Well, that's all for our podcast. We didn't want to make it like an hour 30. I don't think anybody wants to watch any podcast for an hour 30 anyways. That's way too long in my opinion.
And listen on your way to work or something.
But I hope you guys did enjoy the podcast. If you guys ever have any questions, I definitely check the comments. I try to do a better job at it when I upload like Yankees highlights and compilations and stuff like that. So if you guys ever have any questions that you want us to talk about, which I would love that, we can pick and choose and kind of
any suggestions, let us know, because we'll love new topics to talk about.
I like picking the brains of people that are a fan of the same sports team that I am.
Yeah, of course, that's really good. I think that's a good opinion.
But that's about it from us. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you obviously subscribe, click the bell notification so you never miss a video of mine, assuming that YouTube isn't off its rockers and will send the video to you, because sometimes it has issues with notifications. But outside of that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and we will see you guys on the next podcast.